Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And for this video, I'd like to focus on another of looking back on my favorites from the year, from the Criterion Collection 2022. But unlike past years where I've done this year I'd like to do something a little bit different for this video, which is 5 points that perhaps with all due respect to the Criterion Collection, and I love the Criterion Collection. I'm a big fan of what they do, and I think they're doing some really great and important work in the context of cinema and cinema journeys that we can all take part in our own ways, which is a very lovely and valuable thing indeed. So I'm a big fan. So, but that being said, there are some times when I feel, oh, it would be nice if Criterion could do a little bit of this or improve in a little bit that direction, etc. So what I'd like to do today is just talk about 5 areas that are accompanying or associated with some releases this year in 2022 that perhaps I could say from my own personal subjective viewpoint, oh, it'd be interesting, it would be nice, or it'd be really great if Criterion could try to maybe change this or improve this or something. Again, I say this with all due respect to all the great work that is being done at Criterion at those offices. So, but with that being said, there's always room for improvement. And so let me now today bring up 5 areas that I think might be worth considering in terms of improvement or changing or maybe making some reconsiderations and the like. First up is the idea of supplements, or maybe in some areas in terms of quantity, lack of supplements. And this came up, for example, a little bit in the discussions when I was talking about, say, the great release of the great film Arsenic and Old Lace. Or, for example, when we were speaking recently about this great release here too, which is 3 films by Mai Zetterling. Now, I bring these up as examples because these were great releases, don't get me wrong, but and they had certain supplements which were great. But in terms of wanting more supplements, I felt that when I finished watching these films and exploring the supplements, I really felt that, oh, I wish there could have been more supplements. I wish there could have been more, for instance, Criterion produced supplements to accompany the great conversation that they had with Alicia Malone, for example. And then you could have different specific film-specific discussions accompanying each of the 3 discs, for example. Or if we could have had more discussions on Arsenic and Old Lace that could have accompanied the great commentary track, for example. That would have been really cool. So not to take anything away from these great films, but the fact that what we have so far is so great made me as a consumer or as a purchaser of these products want a little bit more. And I was so curious and I wanted to learn more. And I think having the great examples set in the past of great discussions with academics and scholars and experts in these fields for these films, giving us further insight and further areas for discussion and exploration. I would love to see more of that I would love to see that with all the Criterion releases. I know it might not be possible. I know there might be certain issues in terms of maybe rights or budgets or whatever the case may be, but still, I'm always hoping that there could be more, as much packed into that supplements menu as possible, because there's some releases that we've seen that are almost just packed to the brim with supplements. And so I think about those in particular. For instance, Wall-E, what a great release that was. So many supplements. And so I think that, oh gosh, wouldn't it be great if that kind or similar kind of attention could be given to other releases as well, such as Arsenic and Old Lace, such as 3 films by Mai Zetterling, such as other releases too that we have discussed over the course of this year. So again, just a hope from me going forward that we can see as many supplements and many discussion points together with these releases as possible. I'm certainly looking forward to it. So here's another area where I think we can find another discussion point in terms of hopefully maybe we can see more of or more improvement or more attention given. Again, perhaps there are certain realities of production that I'm not aware of that maybe prevents the possibility of what it is I'm about to say. But let me bring it up in the context of Infernal Affairs. And now this was a great, great release. I spoke a little bit about it earlier, but I bring it up in the context of commentary tracks. And so I am of the view that I wish every release by Criterion had a commentary track. I wish every single release had a commentary track, but we don't get every release with a commentary track. And so, and I'm not working at Criterion, so I don't know the ins and outs of these sorts of things, these sorts of decision-making processes. But if it were up to me, and if the budget were within reason, or if the budget could cover such commentary track, say production or getting the rights to use a commentary track from a previous release, etc., I would jump at the chance. And so, commentary tracks are so valuable. And I understand too, sometimes they can be hit or miss, right? I get it. And there are some commentary tracks that I've listened to, even from Criterion releases in the past, that I feel, gosh, this is a bit challenging for me to get through, and that sort of thing. But all in all, there's always something to get into. It's always like talking with friends. It's always like uh, being in the room. I mean, I mentioned Wall-E a while ago, and Wall-E had the release had the great benefit of having not one but two commentary tracks as well. Also, Pink Flamingos, John Waters, or other or the like. And so we have great opportunities for commentary tracks in some releases, but then for others we don't. And so I bring it up in the context of Infernal Affairs because conspicuously, while the first film and the second film have a commentary track, respectively, from a previous release, the third film does not. And so that reminds me about how, oh gosh, it would be so cool if they could have had their own commentary tracks, all of them. And maybe if the third film didn't have a previously existing one, maybe this could have been a great opportunity to create a new one for the Criterion Collection release or something like that. Or I think of other releases too. I mentioned earlier the My Zetterling 3 films. That's a great release. Oh, it would have been so cool if it had commentary tracks there, or maybe the World Cinema Project set, etc. So this is just one, but one of a number of examples where I wish there could be more commentary tracks. I wish every release could have a commentary track, but again, I can appreciate the idea that maybe there are some practical realities that I'm not aware of in terms of the production of these Criterion titles. So of course, I don't want to sound like I'm complaining, and I appreciate the work that's being done. But again, if there's any chance at all, even if it's the opportunity to create a new commentary track or to get the rights to use a previously existing one, oh please, please, please! I truly hope that this can be made possible in a wide a scope as possible going forward. I want to talk about an area which maybe could be described as maybe spelling errors or just typos, etc., that can be found within the release itself. Now, I get it. I'm also prone to errors and error making, spelling errors in my job or when I write things, projects, etc. Again, professionally related, etc. I always try to avoid it, but the errors come, and I totally understand and I can sympathize. But when they occur, it is always my hope that, for instance, when they occur in the Criterion collection, it is always my hope that they can be rectified and corrected, maybe in future printings or second printings, etc. Again, it's my hope that this can occur, or this is going to happen with, say, some of the releases that I saw in during this year 2022. I should point out, for instance, that Criterion does correct things or rectify things, I think, very effectively when those are recognized. Like, for instance, there is a little bit of an issue with regard to the presentation of A Hard Day's Night, or if you recall last year, there was a little bit of an issue regarding Citizen Kane. But I think these errors occur in Criterion when stepping up to the plate will take action, I think, very admirably and accordingly. And so I hope that certain things can happen with respect to some of the other releases this year. For example, I note that one of the supplements for Drive My Car, which is a great release, by the way, is a Cannes Film Festival press conference. And one of the participants sitting at the end of the table he's identified by name, and he's got a name plaque in front of him. And this is the producer Teruhisa Yamamoto. But the Criterion menu, at least for the version that I have here, doesn't name Yamamoto, but in fact names Yuji Sadai, who is, I understand, one of the producers or executive producers of the film. But it's my understanding, again, I could be wrong, but it's my understanding that Yuji Sadai is not actually there in the press conference table, but rather it is Yamamoto. However, Yamamoto is not named in the Criterion supplement submenu, but it's Sadai. So my understanding, therefore, is that the naming of Sadai in the Criterion supplement submenu should be corrected and should be changed to Yamamoto. Now, if my understanding is correct, then hopefully this might be an opportunity for Criterion to make a correction for any future printing or release of this great release, which is Drive My Car. A similar thing occurs with the menu of this release, which is the Celebration. Now, if you look, my understanding of the spelling of Dogma 95 is Dogme. And in fact, I'm looking, if you look closely here, you can see Dogma spelled Dogme on the cover. And so I understand that this is the way it's spelled. However, when I put the disc into the player and I go to the menu, I can see up on the top there, or the corner, Dogma, but the word Dogma is spelled Dogma, not Dogme. So I understand that, again, assuming that my understanding is correct, I'm assuming that Dogma 95, the word dogma should be spelled at the end with an E, not an A. And so if my understanding is correct, then this naming as it occurs in the menu should be corrected for future releases. So hopefully this could be an opportunity for Criterion to make future corrections going forward. Again, I understand mistakes happen, and that's totally cool, and that's totally okay. And then Criterion has been known to step up to the plate when necessary, and so hopefully maybe this will be an opportunity for Criterion to do so for future, say, printings or future releases or re-releases of these, or maybe other titles where this might occur. So again, just my 2 cents. Want to talk about versions or releases or alternate versions that could be made available. Now, I bring it up in the context of another great release, which is right here, Miller's Crossing. But it's my understanding that there were some, perhaps almost imperceptible, but still there were some slight changes or alterations that could be said to have been made when compared to, say, previous releases of Miller's Crossing. And so that's fine. I'm okay with making changes. I'm okay with alterations where they're made, say, by the filmmaker for certain reasons or for certain choices. That's totally okay with me. But I always hope that it could be made possible to, say, have other previous releases of the same film also be made included, say, in the supplements menu. For instance, maybe we could have had as a supplement the other version or other versions, if they exist, of Miller's Crossing that were prior to, say, the changes that were made. Again, understandably subtle and very nuanced and perhaps very, very minute, and perhaps they don't overall change the scope of the film itself. I get that, but still, to have that option for previous change or previous versions to be made included in an example like Miller's Crossing, that would be really, really cool. And so we, as viewers, can be given the opportunity to make our own evaluations and senses as to what version we might prefer or versus another. That could be one possibility. I bring up the great example of Eve's Bayou. Eve's Bayou, if you recall, has a number of versions of the film. And so you have like a director's version and then the theatrical version. In fact, there's a big difference between the two, which is acknowledged by Casey Lemons and company. And so to have that ability, and then actually there's a great almost discussion and debate between the filmmakers and the crew as to which version they prefer. And so to have that ability to discuss what version you prefer, I think is so valuable and so important. It doesn't take away the inherent value of one version or the other. It gives us the opportunity to make our own sense of things in this way, and to even therefore to understand the film even more. And so I think that opportunity, if it were made possible, I think that would be so great going forward. So, and I also bring up in the context of, say, the Wong Kar-wai films, in terms of maybe versions that we could have had prior to the restorations and then post restorations to give us a sense of what has been restored. That would have been really cool indeed as well. So, so those I think are examples, and this is not the only. It's just one of many examples of where this could occur. Again, I understand the practicalities of how this may or may not be possible. But one can always hope. Again, the more opportunities to explore various facets of a film in all of their iterations, all of their versions, I think, the more exciting and the more opportunities we as viewers can have in terms of a further exploration of our own cinema journeys into these. So again, if it is all possible, then I certainly hope that this could occur where indeed it can. And last but not least, I should bring up the great example of this set, which is the World Cinema Project #4 set, the Martin Scorsese set. This is a great release. It's a great set. However, it is a reminder, too, of how this year we have seen, relatively speaking, few collector's sets or box sets. And so I would love to see more box sets. Again, maybe there are certain practicalities, maybe there's certain budgetary concerns. I'm not sure. I can only speculate, but or maybe IP or rights issues. Again, I'm not sure. Or maybe timing, contractual obligations, timing, whatever the case may be. But I would love the opportunity to see more box sets. I remember, of course, talking about the Essential Fellini set, the Agnes Varda set, the Bergman set, the Godzilla release. Oh, it's wonderful. And so it's a reminder, too, of just the greatness of the celebration of physical media and box sets and collector sets that Criterion can do. And they are great. I have in the background, for instance, some examples from Arrow, from the in terms of the Shawscope sets, and so and Volume 2 in particular that came out earlier this year. That would have been, oh my goodness, it's a great example of what other labels are doing. And so Criterion, if we could see more box sets, just huge sets. Again, they're celebrations of physical media. They're celebrations of films or filmmakers, or the focus of these sets. And so if we can see more of these in 2023, oh, that would be great. And it's a reminder, too, of what we didn't get, but also it's also a reminder, too, of what we did get, because I don't want to sound like we didn't get anything. What we got was really great this year. Really, really great. And I spoke a little bit about those releases in a separate video, including this great release. And please, please, this is my plug once again to check this set out if you haven't already. It's fantastic. But again, more box sets, more collector sets. I think the sky's the limit. In the hands of Criterion, they can do. I mean, if anyone can do it, Criterion can. So here's hoping that it can happen in 2023. More box sets, please. All right, so that's it in terms of my wish list or hopes, or perhaps that type of discussion. So we will continue on with a few more of these favorites lists going forward. But until then, my dear friends, please be happy and healthy and well. And please keep on watching a lot of great, great movies. And stick around if you're still interested, because there are going to be a couple more of these favorites from Criterion from 2022. So until the next video, my dear friends, thank you and cheers.